What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. This is Darren with Darren the Dev, and y'all are here in attendance for week 3 of the Career Progression Bootcamp. So thank y'all for attending this. I'm gonna go ahead and just make sure that everything is good with the sound and the audio, and that everything is good with the stream. So yeah, this is week 3. If y'all don't know, this channel is, on this channel we talk about everything from tech, entrepreneurship, coding, and startups. So if you guys are into that, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me to just stay motivated to keep making this type of content for you guys. And what this series right here is basically a weekly live stream on the weekends, either Saturday or Sunday, where myself and 2 other professional software developers all link up online via YouTube and Skype remotely. And we have a curriculum that we follow where we learn or fill the gaps in our knowledge that we want to either have for our jobs or to get better jobs in the future, next jobs, whatever the case is. We just want to get better and progress our skill sets. And this is us kind of working on our craft, and we share it, and we bring kind of like the lessons and takeaways from that week to the live stream, and we compile that into notes and kind of go over sharing our code and everything with you guys. So the topics vary each week, but to not hold everybody up, I'm gonna go ahead and call in the guests on the stream, La and Justin, and then we'll go ahead and get everything started. So I really appreciate y'all for just being here with me. Again, make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe, and go ahead and leave any comments you guys have in the comment section down below while we're going through any code or anything like that. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, go ahead and drop those down below. Right, so we'll go ahead and call in there right now. All right. Okay. So while we wait, I'm gonna just go ahead and try to get a couple of things squared away. You guys might see my screen being a little weird for a second. I'm still trying to get used to this software and how to share my screen and everything. So yeah, sorry guys if you see my screen acting a little weird. It's because I'm just trying to figure out how to. I had it down last week, and then I did something to my settings and it kind of reset it. So I just need to make sure that I can share my screen with you guys. Oh, actually, you know what? I think this is it right here. Live demo mode. Turn on live demo mode. Yep. So I think that's exactly what we wanted to do. Let me see. I don't even know what screen y'all can see right now. Okay. All right. So for me, guys, what I'm bringing to the stream today is going to be some content on algorithms that I did. So if you guys can see right now, I have about 5 different algorithms. For me to take a step back, actually, this week was a lot of me getting onboarded at my new job. I haven't made a video about that yet. But if you guys have been subscribed or like following the channel, then you know that I recently started a new job. And so, like I said, a lot of this week has just kind of been getting settled in and acclimated there. So I will make a video about that. But, I should probably go ahead and get rid of that. But for me, guys, the content that I'm bringing to the stream today is not going to be necessarily notes from the books in our curriculum or anything like that. I am still reading those books, but like I said, getting on board with the new job and kind of just I have to take some new training on some things, and so I have been doing more algorithm based stuff using JavaScript at work, at least in terms of this first week getting onboarded, just trying to get my skills better. So I did some algorithms and I learned some interesting things in JavaScript that I want to share with you guys. And so I'm going to be going over my solutions and then just a couple of the things that I learned this week about JavaScript, or little quirks or little workarounds, like how I ended up solving certain algorithms. And there were some interesting little things that I learned that I think would be helpful for you guys. So I've got, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I got like 5 algorithms that I'm going to share. And then I know we have some Java stuff and some database stuff as well that we're going to be going over. So like I said, guys, I'm just trying to get everybody situated here. I'm still waiting on the guests to hop on. And worst case scenario, if they're not on the next like 3 or 4 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and just jump into my algorithms right here, and then we'll just go ahead and start going over some solutions. So yeah, guys, I hope that everything is good where y'all are. I'm in Michigan, and we just got a foot of snow. So yeah, that's what I woke up to this morning. Makes everything a little bit more difficult leaving the house, trying to drive everywhere and everything. So I am more than happy to be here on this live stream in the house. Got my heater right here. You know what I mean? And just to kind of sit here and just share some of the stuff that we've been learning this week, I think is super exciting. So yeah, I'm really glad that y'all can join me right now for this. Let me see.
What up, dude?
There's Justin. What's up, my dude? Let me see if okay, so we got one joining, but let me see if I can get you on the actual stream, because right now I don't think that you're on.
Yeah, if we can't share screens or whatever, I'm moving everything over into. I've got 2 different code pens that I can just share with you.
Yep, that's perfect. Can you? You said if you show scenes window. All right, so there's you, but I need me and you, so select all cameras. There we go. All right, so cool. So now we're both on the stream. All right, so I'm sorry, bro. Say that one more time. What was going on?
I got I don't have any files to send you, but I have everything in CodePen, so I could just send you the links to the CodePen.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, I got my screen share set up on here, so yeah, that's perfect.
Cool. Turns out CodePen's a pain in the ass. I mean, it's pretty easy. It's just if you're trying to do it in a hurry, it's like your dependencies and stuff. I had to change a couple things to make it all work.
I actually haven't used CodePen in a while. I forgot how it. I kind of forgot how it works. Yeah, are you trying to email it to me or drop it or no, either that or in the chat. The chat's fine too. Yeah, that's cool. I'm using my phone for the live stream, so I'm probably gonna have to email them too. Okay, got you. Yeah, that's cool. That works. So yeah, so I just got done kind of giving a little rundown of my content for the week. So a lot of my stuff was kind of getting up to speed at work. So I have algorithm stuff. I had a lot of time to do like algorithms this week. So I'm just gonna go over like 5 different algorithms, and then not so much the whole entire solution. I mean, it'll be more like takeaways of the things I learned, like certain little stuff like that in JavaScript. So I'll go over that. La sent me some notes on Java. So I just sent her a text to see if she got the original Skype call or if I have to call her again. And then, and then what was your stuff this weekend?
Well, it's it's never like you think it's gonna be. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We had talked on Wednesday. I was like, yeah, I'll go through and do some algorithms and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I watched a video, which I can provide the link for afterwards. And it's just like in the React community, there's like I ended up stumbling into a rabbit hole that I that I like dove down. So it's more React stuff, and then like JavaScript.
Okay.
It's basically I've got two examples. One is just a quick like ES5 like prototypes, like JavaScript prototypes. I learned a little bit more about how those were actually working. Turns out ES6 like it's a lie. And then the other one is it has to deal with like class components in React and a new thing called hooks. Well, it's not new for React; it's new for me, but it's sort of like how you use functional components with state as well. So it's got an article I can share too that talks about like the downsides of class components in React, and that's kind of the rabbit hole. It was like it's been the standard for a while, so now there's like a list of common complaints and stuff. So I'm kind of trying to wrap my head around one of their solutions to that, and then trying to judge whether or not I should continue going down to just learn a bunch about class components if they're ultimately going to get rid of them. That's basically it, just JavaScript in short.
I got you. No worries. That sounds good actually. Lyle, did you just pop in?
You said, oh, can you see me?
No, I can't see you yet. I can hear you.
See me now?
There it is. Yeah, there we go.
I can see you now. So let me. All right, perfect. Let me just try to get you. Select all cameras. There she is. Yo, I'm figuring it out. I know how to get us all on here. All right, beautiful. All right, what's up? So Justin and I just got done kind of wrapping up what we're gonna go over. So I was saying that my week wasn't very academic, as you would say. It was more or less like algorithm stuff. And it was in JavaScript. So I have like 5 algorithms that I want to go over and not necessarily walk through like every single line, but I just want to talk about some of the stuff that had me tripped up when I was trying to solve the algorithm maybe, and some of the either approaches or certain things about JavaScript that I didn't know and I found out this week that I think would be helpful. And then Justin, if you don't mind kind of running back just what you said you were going to run over as well.
Yeah, it's a bunch of it's just React and JavaScript stuff.
Yep.
In short.
And so, La, I know you have. I saw your notes look like it was Java stuff.
Yeah, I'll probably talk a little bit about some of the reading I was doing this week. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. Yep. Perfect. Cool. So I can go ahead and start it off. All right. So first, share my screen. All right, cool. So this was the first. Can y'all see this?
No, it's still you.
It's still me.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. All right. Even right now.
No.
Are y'all still just seeing me right now?
Yeah.
Oh wait, y'all are looking at Skype, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I don't know this.
Oh my God, yeah. All right, so we're good. Okay, so y'all might have to go to the stream. You won't be able to see me on Skype. Sorry, because I was sitting. I'm like, wait, am I messing something up again on these screens? I thought I figured this out. But yeah, all right. So y'all won't be able to actually see through Skype. But to the viewers, so this algorithm right here is counting adverbs, and it's just creating a function that counts the number of adverbs in a sentence. Adverb is a word that ends with ly. So we got some examples here where we can see she ran hurriedly towards the stadium. The only word that ends in ly is hurriedly, so it returns 1. The next example, she ate the lasagna heartily and noisily, returns 2 because noisily and heartily both end in ly. So this was one of the problems I did this week, and I want to go over my solution really fast. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna flip right here to this screen. I think I already have it up. Yep, cool. Let me try to raise this up. All right. So the main thing I want to talk about in this one is how I actually removed or really how I removed certain things in the sentence that I needed to in order to format the string to be able to count properly. So in this case, I need to be able to count how many words have a certain ending. And in order to do that, I figured that I should just get all the endings of the words. So basically, if I know that anything that's an adverb ends in ly, then I wanted to grab the last two characters of every word and put them in an array, and I could just loop over that and compare that against ly to see if that was the case. And then each time something matched, I would just count every time it matched. But the takeaway here that I wanted to share was that, so as you guys can see, every sentence has a period. And if we go back and look at the test cases as well, some of the test cases also have commas. So this one, he was happily, crazily, foolishly, over the moon. So what I stumbled on in this was I was getting close to having the right answer, but for some it was off. I would get the right answer sometimes, and I would get the wrong answer for some of the test cases, and I couldn't figure out why. And I realized it was always off by like 1 or something like that. And so what ended up happening was that I couldn't just grab the last 2 characters of every word without first formatting the string so that there's nothing in the string that isn't just a character. So I had to get rid of all commas and all periods. So what I used in JavaScript was this replace method that you can use on a string, and you can replace pretty much any instance of something in a string with this method. But what I learned and what I wanted to share about this solution was that the replace method worked for periods. So in this case, this first line here is actually a good example of how this method works, because this first one gets rid of periods. And this worked for every sentence that I had because every sentence only had 1 period. And what the replace method does is it replaces the first instance of whatever you tell it to. So it's only going to replace the first period it comes across. So that's fine in the case of a period, but in the case of a comma, that was throwing off my test cases, because like you saw in that one in that one test case, it had multiple commas. So this was only if I wrote this second instance of using the replace method, if I wrote this exactly like the first one, it would only remove the first comma it comes across, then it would leave all the other ones there. So this is a regex. This first argument right here is a regex. This / comma / g means that you can make whatever you're trying to remove global, and it removes all instances of it instead of just the first one. So this allowed me to get rid of all the periods. This one allowed to get rid of all the commas in every sentence. And then from that point, it's just like, okay, loop through the string and grab the, this right here, word.length -2 and word.length, just basically just saying grab the last 2 characters of every word in the string. So I thought that was interesting that this replace method, number one, it can replace anything in a string. But if you write it just like this first example with the period, it'll only replace the first instance of whatever you tell it to. And so in this case, it's fine. But if you need multiple things, you got to write the regex remove all instances. So this was one that I wanted to go over, mainly that. Y'all have any like, I guess, and then we can see here, so if I run this first one, so like this first test case, right, we only have one word that ends in ly, and if I run it, I get 1. And then if I comment that one out and run this second one, whoop. If I run that one, we get 2 because heartily and noisily are right there. So do y'all have any like feedback on my code here? I'm definitely not the best person in the group at JavaScript for anybody on the live stream who's like looking, which is why I didn't actually talk through every single line, because I'm not saying this is the most efficient example. I'm not saying I have the most time efficient or anything like that, but I just wanted to just share that piece. But is there any like feedback y'all might have on the code?
I mean, just the language nerd in me is thinking that there's any adverb that doesn't end in ly would fail, that it would, so it wouldn't get picked up. Or if there happened to be like a noun or something that ended in ly, you could have a couple, like some false positives, but whatever. It's just an algorithm. The only thing I would say code-wise would be that like the regular expressions is like, it might be kind of like simple in this example, but you can actually do a lot with that stuff.
True, that's very true, yeah.
Just by adding stuff to where that comma is in between the 2 slashes, like you can then like replace a lot of different things, but that'd be the only thing I'd draw attention to.
La, any feedback?
Yeah, no, I don't see your code, so yeah, no, I don't at this point.
Okay, yeah, that's right. You gotta be on YouTube, so it's not a big deal. You don't have to go to YouTube or anything like that. I just thought you could see it, but all right, so that's one of them. I'm gonna go to this next one. Let's read the instructions real quick. All right, so it's called Hacker Speak, and this one actually, this is a good follow up to the last one, just because it's utilizing like similar approaches, but so it's just take a string and turn it into like it calls it Hacker Speak, but all it's saying is basically replace all like A's with 4s, E's with 3s, I's with 1s, O's with 0s, S's with 5s. But so I think this one was just about simplicity. So I'm gonna show this solution really quick and just talk about the approach to this one. And if my screen is moving a little slow, sorry y'all. It's all the software is running. It's Skype and Ecamm Live and YouTube, and so yeah, apologies if there's a lag for the viewers. So in this Hacker Speak one, again using the same exact so I think this is a great follow up because it applies what we just looked at again in just a different way, but same method, the replace method, and all I did was make a separate helper function, and in that I did pretty much everything I needed to do, and then that way in my actual Hacker Speak method I just call that function, pass in the string, and good to go. But basically, all we had to do, as the instruction said, is replace certain letters with certain values. So replace A's with 4s, O's with 0s, E's with 3s, I's with 1s, and S with 5. And so literally this code is almost like self-explanatory in the fact that that's exactly what the replace method does. And then that regex we just talked about, I just used that to get rid of every instance of all those characters in the string and replace it with whatever. Only other thing I would say I think is cool about this method, or not cool, but just something to just noteworthy, is that we start off with the string str. So this first variable format a is just us updating the A's in the string with 4s. But then every method after that is just updating the previous. Or I'm sorry, not every method. Every variable after that is just updating the previous variable. So we start off with the original string, and then we set format A to an updated copy of the string. Then on format O, we update format A, and on format E, we update format O. So it's just like one after another. You're just replacing each letter one at a time, storing it in a new variable, and then at the very end, just return the whole thing when it's finally finished. So yeah, this was pretty straightforward, but I thought it was a good add-on to I guess reinforce another way of using the replace method, or another instance of where, why, or how you would use the replace method in JavaScript. I'm realizing a lot of like JavaScript is just kind of knowing what's at your disposal too. Like a lot of making your life simpler, or making like solutions simpler in JavaScript is how well you know what already exists to help you in JavaScript and how to use it. So if you know that this replace method exists, it'll save you a lot of time, I guess, whenever you have to do some string manipulation. Alright, so that one wasn't super interesting. Let's see, this one's numbers and strings. Whoops. Alright, so this one is create a function that takes an array of strings and returns an array with only the strings that have numbers in them. If there are no strings containing numbers, return an empty array. So I think this one was interesting because I know as a developer, I think it's almost safe to say for everyone that you could never get too comfortable with like array manipulation or string manipulation or any combination of these things. And so I thought this was like an interesting way of looking at that. So how to loop through an array and decide if each value has a number in it or not, and then return return an array with only the strings that have numbers in them and exclude everything else. So we'll go over here to the solution. All right, so again, this one's pretty like straightforward in how it was solved. So like I created an array of numbers 1 through 9 that I could loop over, and then create an empty array so I can store all the I guess sets that have numbers in them, and then I just loop over the original array, and then I loop over my array of numbers. And then for everything in the array, I turn it into a string. And then this includes method is what I want to talk about in this. So includes is really good because array starts off, well, array is an array, right? So the includes method isn't going to work on an array. But because I'm looping through each item in the array, which is a string, I can then just toString item, and then I can use the includes method because it's a string method. And then I can just say, look and see if one of my numbers is in this string. So again, it's knowing that this JavaScript method exists will save a lot of time for people who are trying to do string manipulation type stuff. And it's just really good to, I guess, just expose yourself and know what's at your disposal, because I knew this existed, but again, just running into different use cases for it is, I guess, the reason why I wanted to show this. So yeah, I could loop through, see if it contained it, and if it contained any numbers from the numbers array, and then if it did, push it into the contains number array. So the last thing down here is another reason why I wanted to share this solution. So once I did that, I was failing certain test cases because there were duplicate instances of the same value in the array that had a number in it. So they wanted you to return a unique set of like only one instance of every value that had a number in it. So this array contains nums right here and down here, those had duplicates, or this has duplicates in it. So I needed to figure out how to filter that out. So again, I figured there had to be a simple way of doing that in JavaScript to eliminate duplicate values. And a quick Google search revealed that you can create a new set. So we use the spread operator. So we basically say for everything in contains nums, we're going to create a new set, which immediately gets rid of any duplicate values and returns you a new array of only unique values. So again, the includes method on strings to see if the string has whatever you pass into it, if it contains that, and then this new set method to eliminate any duplicate values in an array if you have it, which is a clean way of doing that in one line. So that's why I wanted to share this one. Any critiques?
I just have two things I would say. One, I would say a nice way to use set. That's a nice use of that. And the second thing, the first one, since I still can't see it, only question I will ask you is what's your time complexity? If you're using multiple loops within loops,
Yeah.
Include is also iteration that goes through a loop underneath the include. So I don't know if you're considering time complexity when you're solving them, or you're just trying to just solve them.
Yep, definitely was just trying to solve it. This would definitely not be best time complexity, because if I'm not mistaken, this would be O of n squared because of my nested loop.
Well, so, you also count your include under the hood.
More than that.
Loop. Yeah. They use an iteration too. So
it's iterating on the string to find out. It's iterating on every element in the string to see if my thing is in it as well. So it's like a triple nested loop.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So yeah, that good call. Definitely wasn't considering that at all. It was just banging these out and trying to just get better with my vanilla JavaScript, which I know is a weakness of mine. Trying to, like I said, these are new things to me, like set. I knew about includes, but I'm still finding out different ways you can use it. But that's definitely good feedback right there. I didn't consider that. So let me see this next one. So given a string, reverse all the words which have an odd length. Even length words are not changed. So go to the solution really quickly. Off the top of my head, I don't remember why I wanted to show this one. So let me look at the solution really quick. Let me see. So, split the string, and for every one, if it's not an even, if it doesn't have an even number of letters, then push it into the result, and then run the reverse on it. Okay, got it. So then I rebuild the word in reverse. Okay, so so down here, looks like I actually reverse word result dot push. Yeah, and then this actually reverses the word up here. So I think down here, just determining if the word is odd, and then up here, if it is, I push every character into the result array, and then up here, I actually reverse the word. I think the things up here was just one, you can return straight away on an if statement. If like the value, if you don't need another condition afterwards, you can just straight up return a value, which I didn't know. And then let me see. I don't remember specifically why I might have had this one up exactly. So I won't waste too much time on it. But yes, I'm definitely trying to get more into making helper functions, especially when something is like when I'm doing my like whiteboarding or just planning everything out. If there's like separate processes, if I know there's going to be steps involved in me getting to the solution, I try to write a method for each step or get better at that. So in this case, like determining if the word is odd is doing one thing, and then basically setting up this initial reverse word function to do the reversing. But once it gets up here, everything else has already been handled, though. It's been determined if the word is odd or not, and then all the letters of the odd word are pushed into an array. Then you just have to just concatenate everything together. But in the last couple examples, maybe not that last one, but the first one, I think maybe the last one had one too. You can see like I'm just trying to get better at keeping my stuff separation of concerns, like you say, I guess you call it pure functions or just things that do only one thing. In this case, that probably isn't the case because this probably could be even more simplified. This is kind of doing more than one thing in a sense, but the idea is I'm trying to get better at looking at these algorithms and in terms of how can I break it down into individual functions and then just use those functions to solve the problem at the end. Because one, if it takes me like 3 or 4 hours to work on one of these things, then if I step away from the computer for any period of time and try to come back to it, I'm immediately less efficient. Like it's hard to just get back into wherever I was at that time. So splitting out my stuff into smaller and smaller, like more single responsibility, if I'm being literal here, but is definitely something I'm trying to work on. And then this last one, create a function that returns the sum of all even elements in a 2D matrix. So I'm guessing we're gonna have some more time complexity issues right here, because I'm definitely not the best at. I need to start going back and refactoring my loops, just so that I don't get in the habit of leaving everything double nested. I do it to kind of brute force my way through, but for anybody watching, it's definitely not the. To Lau's point, it's definitely not the most efficient solution, time complexity wise. So yep, as expected, double loop. I think maybe I wanted to share this one just because of how simple the 2D array thing was, and just okay. Okay. I'm gonna get this out of here. All right, yeah. Sorry.
Hey, do you have in the top of your browser? Do you have like Postgres and Docker running?
No, I actually uninstalled Docker. Might even uninstalled Postgres, to be honest. I needed.
I have to shut them down when I turn my computer on, just to prevent it from bogging everything down. But I mean, you got other stuff running, so I was just curious.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, in this case, just a double loop over, and for every element in the 2D array, basically just check if it's even, sum it up and return it. But I guess this one was just more or less from a simplicity point of view, and just like for the formula of looping through double arrays, how simple it can be in JavaScript, or double arrays, 2D arrays, like how simple it can be. It doesn't have to be like super crazy and messy. So there was nothing big or like no new methods or anything to share with this one. I guess this one was just more about the thought process behind it. I've been trying to get big on like writing out my whole solution and then simplifying it on paper before I even like get into anything. So that's been my main focus, is just trying to get more efficient with how I approach these things. But for the most part, I would say that's the bulk of what I had. I'm gonna come back real quick and get off this share screen. Cool, and then now I just need all of our screens back.
The matrix spiral is like I've been asked that one before, and it's like that one's hard.
Yeah, so getting comfortable with that type of stuff is definitely helpful. Anybody out there that's watching. But so this week was mainly just that. Like I said, it was just a lot of getting up to speed, a lot of stuff with my job. So a lot of the downtime I had when my team was doing sprint planning stuff, I was doing algorithms. So that's why I wanted to share that. I'll definitely have more academic content next week. Just to recap what I did go over this week, or what I did read. I spent a lot of time reading the database book. So I'm in chapter 2 right now of database systems and concepts, and it's basically just going through like relational databases, and it's just going through at a very deeper level. So I didn't understand, I didn't know that relational databases are based on algebra in themselves, like algebraic expressions, and then so that was cool. And then tuples are just another. So I always have heard or read tuples in like blogs in certain places, or even in certain code, you'll see it somewhere sometimes as a data type or something like that. But a tuple just refers to like a row. It's just another way of talking about a row in a database table. So not a subject matter expert yet, but I just thought that was interesting, just seeing how the terminology kind of intermingles a little bit. So it's getting into just like referential integrity is still going over it, but it's just at a very, very deep, like fundamental level, understanding I think, what is it, reference keys, and then there's the reference key, and then there's like it's the referenced and the referencing key. So just how you describe your relationships, basically getting better with terminology, or how you describe your relationships between two different tables. So a lot of just very technical like database stuff, but it's very good to just take a step back and just get the real like fundamentals of it. So I'm gonna take another week to come back and then speak more on that when I finish chapter 2 and I get my notes in order together. So I'm halfway through chapter 2 right now. Didn't feel confident like speaking on what I kind of covered yet. Plus, it's not necessarily anything game-breakingly new yet. It's just kind of cementing some of what you run into all the time. Just getting a better understanding of the system itself. So next week I'll be back with more academic notes in value. But yeah, that's all I got. So Justin, I don't know if you sent me already your links to your. I haven't checked my email. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, cool. So, did you wanna jump in next? Or whoever wants to go, I can share your stuff. So just let me know.
I mean, depends on. That's all JavaScript, so I guess Segue is probably all right.
For sure. All right. Yep. So I'll fire up this email.
That email's got all the links that I have. A couple of articles and the video and.
All right, so what I'll do is I can put the. All right, that's perfect. What I can do is, if you need to see the articles, I can pull it up and everything, and then I'll just drop it in the description box or something with it afterwards as like a resource for people.
They're just all they're doing is going to be like, it's talking about what we're gonna like what I'm going to be talking about anyway. So
okay, got you.
Definitely like a. Afterwards, go back and read it and see what's going on in detail, because I'm sure I'll mess something up.
All right, perfect. All right, cool. So email's loading, just a little slower than preferred. All right, here we go.
I understand.
All right, so which of these pins should I open up first?
I guess we can go with the second one, because that's the one I got up right now, the prototype one.
Okay.
I don't think they're labeled for you though. I think it's the second one.
Okay.
I'll be able to tell you once it pops up.
Yep.
There's nothing fancy. It's just like fundamental JavaScript fundamental stuff that I didn't know. I figured it'd be worth them.
All right, for sure.
So I kind of had to just dump it all while just for it to make sense. So you can get rid of the human as just parts because everything it should run first time.
All right, no worries. Yeah. Let me know how it's looking on your end because it's still loading for me.
Yeah, it's worth it right now too. It's delayed.
All right, cool. Everybody watching, I really appreciate y'all, man, for just being here and every week kind of bearing with me through certain like laggy issues with my connection. Just a lot of software running on my computer, so I really appreciate y'all kind of going through some of these slowly loading screens and everything with us. Yeah, really appreciate that. Trying to make it as smooth of an experience as possible for y'all to just come in, drop into the stream, and learn. But be sure that I will be leaving timestamps in all of the description boxes from now on. I think that was something that people liked from the last stream, so I'll be leaving as we wrap up and post this afterwards. I'll keep putting timestamps for each topic so that as much as this stuff happens, you guys can always just refer to the description box and just go straight to whatever content you guys want to hear, read about. So Justin, I don't know. I know my whole page isn't loaded, but I don't know if this is enough room, or if you need me to go to a different file, or just walk me through whatever, and I'll do whatever you need me to.
So I don't know. I forget how to do it, but you can set it up to where they're side by side, so they don't each other. And, actually, just click on console because there's nothing. Page, I just co-lock. So down in the bottom left corner is the little console button.
Yep.
There's no HTML or CSS. It's all JavaScript.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool. All right. Sweet.
Let's see. Should be. Can you scroll down to the bottom for me?
Yeah, in the output or in the JavaScript.
Oh, we're good. It's good. Yeah, just there's a delay. The output pops up in the console.
Oh, gotcha.
It's good. All right, so this is a super simple example, and I was going through learning this, and I forgot to write it down, so I just went back to one of the videos that I watched about it, and on Travis C. Media's site, and stole one of his examples and kind of tweaked it a little bit just to keep things simple. But I didn't know. So initially, this will be more towards the second example, but this started as a video conference talking about how React classes are becoming a problem, essentially, or at least as of 2018 or wherever the video was taken. And development in those is starting to get a little cumbersome and confusing. There's all these problems that are listed in that one of the articles. And it's basically because one of the reasons anyway is because that in ES6 they added support for classes, which makes it more comfortable for people from other languages essentially to jump over and start using JavaScript without as much overhead in terms of learning and all that, or at least that's one of the things that it does. But really, it's just syntactic sugar. It makes it look more familiar to people, but behind the scenes, it doesn't change anything that's actually happening. And the problem that creates in something like React is that you're treating everything like a class, but JavaScript doesn't isn't set up like that. It works with prototypes instead of class. It's just one of these mainstream conventions that was added because people were asking for it, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where this started. I'll follow up with that in a minute with the other example. But in doing so, I ended up looking into prototypes a little bit more because I didn't really understand a lot about them. What I found out was actually pretty cool. I know this example is really small, straightforward, but I thought this was pretty useful. So I guess I can explain that in a minute. But essentially, what I have here are just I've got two different things that are almost identical. And if you look at the output, if you expand the console output, you'll see that their outputs are in fact identical. But there's a subtle difference that I wanted to point out, and it's because of the use of prototype. So there you go.
Is this enough, or should I bring it up some more? Or
yeah, I mean, you can leave it right there because it's the same both times. It's just the same thing twice, and all that does is serve as proof of what I'm saying being true. So, like, if anything, we need to see more of the code above it.
Okay.
Mine's side by side.
Oh, got you. Okay, there's this piece right here missing. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wait, there's more. Okay.
Yeah, there's more to this file. That's what's doing the rest of it. So yeah,
All right,
you can get rid of the I'm just.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go full page view.
There you go. If you do, yeah, that'll work. So yeah, I mean the output, like I said, all I did, like you'll be able to see it at the bottom. All I did was console log both of these objects out, and they produce the same thing. Even though they are in fact they are different objects. So that's basically the point here, is that behind the scenes they're actually different, but they produce the exact same thing. And one of them, the first regular book is not using prototype, but the proto book is using prototype.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about relying on the network while we're streaming. I'll send these in a text file next time.
Yeah, for sure. And then I'm trying to get this other one. Well, right now I got the other one. Loading up, so hopefully it'll go a little bit smoother.
Right.
I'm just gonna try to get this one full screen so you can at least talk through the code one time, and then.
Oh, it's almost there. I guess like in the meantime, so like behind the scenes, like vanilla JavaScript, like every single, I think even functions are considered objects in JavaScript. So like basically everything in JavaScript has this. Everything's objects, and all objects have the prototype property connected to it. And under the JavaScript has like a class. If you're creating objects, and on that object, when you go to reference that given property, if the property doesn't exist on the JavaScript, will look to the object's prototype, find that property. And that is a way you can basically simulate like class behavior like we would normally treat it in other languages.
Yeah, I got you. It's not looking
fundamentally different.
Yeah, it wasn't playing too well with the full screen. Is this all your code right here on the screen right now, or is there more underneath?
There's a little bit more underneath it, but you can there you go. That's it. Perfect. All right, so the I guess I can just walk through line by line if you're and just first and then go from there. So the first two things that I'm doing, I'm just creating the first two functions are just creating two different types of objects. The first one book, second one proto book. They share, and then when we create, they're basically constructor functions. And when we create them, like at the bottom, when I'm like instantiating them at the bottom or whatever.
Wait, you mean here or here?
The properties.
Yep.
You see the const B and proto B at the bottom.
Yep. So here.
Yeah, right there. There, I'm passing them the information they need that goes into the constructor function. Constructor function creates the object itself, and then all I'm doing is console logging them from there. But the difference here is that if you look at, like, for all intents and purposes, there's one difference between these two objects. Everything else is exactly the same. Like the properties, title, author, year is exactly the same on both of them. But in book, the first one, I'm passing in or I'm not passing anything in. I'm just using, I'm calling or creating this get summary function inside the constructor itself. So when a new instance of a book is created, it automatically has get summary attached to it as part of the overall object. Now, the problem here is when you go to reuse this thing, like in an application, what if I had 1,000 different books that I needed to instantiate? Now you've got this get summary method is being created with each one of those book instances that gets newed up. So a way to do that, and like obviously title, author, and year need to be unique on a per book basis because every book is unique. But get summary, all it's doing is accessing those existing properties that we need to create the thing in the first place. So what we can do is make use of the prototype like system in JavaScript. And what that's going to do is in proto book, the second object, if you notice the properties are the same, title, author, year, but I removed that method and I created it underneath it as part of proto book's prototype. So now anytime, because I put it in the actual like prototype, anytime a proto book gets instantiated, it's always going to have access to this function. But the difference is, just like it'll always have access to the function, just like the previous example. But the difference here is this function is written one time, and all the new objects will reference this particular function instead of having a unique version of that method attached to every individual object. And that was like, that took me a little while to get to that point because I was unfamiliar with it to begin with. Like I had heard of prototypes before, it just had never really come up. And if like in CodePen, it's like it's console logging it, the output is exactly the same. In like the browser, and the one example that like Traverse Media was using, it actually there's like an underscore proto underscore property on every single object anyway, and when you create them in the prototype, that's where the method will be in terms of the when you console log it in the browser. And that's essentially it. I mean, it was a pretty cool little thing, but you can actually this leads to you can do inheritance and stuff like that. But this is what's going on under the hood. So in ES6, when you create a class and you just say class book, whatever, and then you list all the properties, whatever, this is actually what's going on under the hood, even though writing it the other way is actually easier and there's less going on. You know what I'm saying? But adding things to the prototype is what's going to allow you to reuse methods and stuff like that.
Nice.
like in general, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, I had run into the prototypes, but I didn't know exactly what made them distinct either. So that's interesting. Is it just the scale of your application then that determines why you should use prototype versus just a regular?
I mean, in this case, it would be yeah, but like you just don't want to create multiple copies of the same function if you don't have to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, but there is like, and I haven't gotten to this part yet, but it's basically there's something going on behind the scenes in terms of like later on down the road in React and whatever, where everything's being treated like a class, but at the end of the day, JavaScript doesn't really support classes out of the box. It was just like added later to be more to establish more like continuity between JavaScript and other languages. I could be wrong about that, but that's what it looks like from my perspective, and at least what I've seen so far, is that it was just something that people were asking for, and they added it as syntactic sugar to ES6. So you can write that stuff like that, where instead of function or whatever, you just write class book, and then you define everything accordingly. But ultimately, it's going to get converted to this first, and then on we go.
Got you.
So it's more of like I guess in that sense, it's more of an academic thing where you just want to know what's going on under the hood. But yeah,
Gotcha.
that's all I got. That's all I got for this one.
Okay. Cool. Laz, you have any input on that before we go to the next example?
Sorry. No input. That was cool. I understood it.
All right. Cool. All right. I'm about to get this next one.
Sorry, I had to sit through that one. That was probably pretty basic for you. Yeah?
No worries. I'm still on the public. No worries. I'm sidetracked.
Right,
this one's gonna be, unfortunately, this one's gonna be basic for you too. But there's more going on here, and I know you know a lot more about React than I do. So I'm curious to see what you have to say about this one. Because there's probably a bunch of stuff happening that's not on my radar yet.
All right, so for anybody on the live stream, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna scroll up and down a few times so you can see how long the file is. In case anything is cut off, I just want you to know that we'll be going through it. We'll be moving the screen down. I just can't fit all the code at once.
Yeah, and again, this is I've got two different components here, so you'll actually have to manually mess with this one a little bit to show the other one, if that makes any sense.
Oh, okay. So one of them is like collapsed.
Well, no. I actually switched. It's the same component twice, but in two different ways. So if you scroll down to the bottom, it should say. Actually, if you just go to the very bottom where there's the React DOM render function.
Yep.
Where that says app with hooks, switch that to just app.
Like delete with hooks?
Yep.
Right there?
There's a delay. I'm going to assume that it was good. It should just say app, yeah, just like that, right? So now in the not the console, but the actual like display screen, there should be like a post button and a to do button, and then underneath it, it's just going to say what the actual state of the application is. And again, both examples do the exact same thing. They're just there to prove that they do the exact same thing. It's not in the console. Not in the console this time. This one actually, all the React stuff is loaded behind the scenes, so it'll actually show up.
So how do I launch it? I guess, or see it?
Oh, WIT needs to get deleted too, based on whatever that error was.
Where is it? Wait.
Oh yeah, it's gone. Yeah. This is like hard to debug with the time delay. Can you just open that up again? Because it probably tried saving it right when you're in the middle of typing or removing the characters. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, see, it's not. I don't know why it's picking up app wit somewhere. I didn't write that. And neither you don't have it either. Sweet. This is what I mean. I was trying to get this like code stuff to work in CodePen right before we started, and it's like this thing seems to have a habit of just having an aneurysm.
Just make sure everything. But yeah, I guess where were you viewing it before? Like, you have to go here, right?
In the white, the white display space by default.
So you're saying here?
That's good. That's right. React. Yeah, that came with it. Yeah. So my view is just arranged differently. So I don't know. Yeah, that should be right there. Yeah. Whatever. It's all it is. Like I said, it's two buttons at the top of the page, and all it does is display the state. But the concepts that they represent are more important. I just don't know why. I don't know why it's not.
I'll just go back to the code and let you.
Yeah, that works. Because they're really simple. They're really simple components, and for anybody that's not familiar with React, there's a lot going on here. But even still, all right. So the top part, yeah, right there is fine. The first one is just a regular class component in React, and all it does is just if you've never used React before, the first line is just boilerplate. Then the second is sets up like components state, and all we have is the resource property on there with the value of posts. All right, and then what gets rendered are the two buttons. Each button has an on-click event that is setting the state to either post or to do, depending on which one you click on. Right, and then underneath it, this.state.resource, all that's doing is displaying what the current state of the component is. Right. So this is a very simple version of a class component in React, right? And then basically, I guess what I should do is probably go over the issues with that first, or at least what people are saying the issues are. So there were some common complaints about class components in general, like as React has grown in popularity, more and more people are using it. Similar with ES6, with people asking for like the class syntax and all that kind of stuff. This is kind of similar, where everything was getting put in like a ton of wrappers. It was making the logic really hard to follow. The components were getting really big and just confusing in general. And it's confusing not only for like the developer itself, but behind the scenes, there's actually confusing for the machine as well, in terms of like binding, I guess. The this keyword with JavaScript, the binding gets really confusing, and it needs to be managed manually. And I've had to. I didn't write it in here, but I've had to write it like 15 times over the last couple of days. That's just binding this context to the actual component itself. But you have to manage that manually. And as well as the lifecycle method, so like component did mount, component did update, component did unmount. All of these lifecycle methods we're creating. They need to be managed individually, but a lot of the logic has to do with both of them. So you got to keep everything in sync manually. And a lot of the logic for certain, would be like a singular action on the screen actually hits two different lifecycle methods behind the scenes. And it bloats the class size, which leads to more confusing classes. In addition to that, it was hard to test, and the overall size of the file, the compiled code was getting out of control or whatever. So their answer are the React team's answer, and there's this video, this Abramov dude, he explained it at a conference in 2018, I think. They're hooks, React's hooks, and basically what it's going to do is allow you to use functional components, which before hooks were basically just used for like just displaying some component that didn't have any state with it. hooks allow you to use functional components with state, and it allows you to basically reach out and essentially hook into the application state, which is what's going on in the second example down here. So all I did was take the first component, the class component app, and convert it into app with hooks, which is the second one at the bottom here. So the first line, const app with hooks, yada yada, that's just standard functional component declaration, and then underneath that is how you actually set this thing up. That's one of many hooks, and the thing to look at here is the React.use state. Because of CodePen, I had to write it as React.use state, but normally you just import use state from the top, and then you can use it directly in your file or whatever. But basically, what that's doing right there is saying, hey, I've got a state object called resource, or a state item, whatever, called resource, and set resource is going to be the way I'm going to update that property, and then post use state, and then in parentheses post, that is the initial state of the resource property. So then down below, when you do on click, all we're calling set resource, which is part of like state as well, and then we're passing it the new value that we want the state to change to, and that's how the state is updated. But again, at the end of the day, it's doing the exact same thing that the example above is doing. It's just using hooks instead of class components and state, or component state with a class, or as a class. Yeah.
So,
and that's it.
So what's the real? I mean, because in terms of, I guess, what's the real benefit of the hook?
So it's in response to the problems that I said before. The like classes getting too big, life cycle methods getting all over the place. In this way, I can basically just deal with state in a component level state in by name directly. And because you can actually declare more than just one of those. It isn't just like one thing.
So it's like an organizational thing.
Yeah, just but it does have performance benefits. It's more like it ends up making things more readable. It's more of an adjustment that the React team is making in response to the trend of all of these common problems with classes. Class sizes getting too big, logic getting split up amongst lifecycle methods, so on and so forth. So it's more of like a convention change, I guess. But they're all like, nothing is getting taken away though. So like you can still use classes like you normally would. You can still use stateless functional components as you normally would. Hooks is just an additional thing that they're adding, or that they added, so that you can avoid some of these problems if your application is going to be really big, or in whatever the use case may be. It's just an additional option. Personally, I like functional components more, so I'm excited to keep digging into hooks and see what's going on, and see if the overall development process is more friendly. I'm not sure that it will be, because for me, you're splitting up all the lifecycle methods now was where the logic was split up. Now what you're doing is doing the same thing. You're just doing it with hooks instead, and I don't know if that's gonna really. It kind of seems like robbing Peter to pay Paul, but I'm gonna go ahead and say that the people at the React team know more about it than I do, so I'm gonna give them a benefit of the doubt here and just see what's going on. And there's other ones too. Use state is just a simple example of a hook. There's update element. There's a bunch of different state, or there's a bunch of different hooks that you can use that do different things. I'm just not super familiar with any of them. The use state is the one I've seen the most, so I figured I'd throw that one out there.
For sure, yeah. This is my first time actually seeing a hook in action. I've heard the term hook, but I haven't spent enough time with React to really get there yet.
Right. If you hop online and just start Googling this stuff, there's a lot of Medium articles and whatnot about our class is dead in React and all this kind of stuff, and it's not necessarily to me, that's kind of an overreaction because classes are obviously like they're a part of this thing from the beginning, so it's not as easy as just like moving away from them. Unless unless your application is completely brand new, I suppose. Law, you would actually have more because I know you guys have done some refactoring with React and on like the Redux side. I'm curious to see what your perspective is on this type. Have you guys used hooks at all?
Yeah, I think I think of hooks like I think of everything else. I think Redux is a tool, hooks is a tool, context API, which also comes with React, is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all different ways to manage state, and it's how you choose. I think the unique thing about hooks is that it allows you to manage state in a functional component, and typically that's not where state is managed.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't think it's a matter of preference or anything like that. I just think it's a tool. I just think that whatever tool gets the job done, and whichever one meets the needs of the application which you tend to use. Personally, I don't like to add different kind of dependencies in my application, so I'm less of a fan of Redux. I feel like if you use React properly, it manages state well itself. I think with the built-in tools, now they have hooks, now they have context API, it's a lot easier to manage state than it once was. That's just my personal opinion. At my job, we use Redux more just because my boss prefers it. We're allowed to use Redux hooks if we want to, but pretty much the convention is Redux at my job.
So now I guess because I haven't had a ton of time to really get into like how the two, because I read similar takes on it where it was like it's like hooks doesn't replace Redux doesn't replace hooks, like vice versa, but they can be used together. Have you seen or done anything like that?
Well, I mean, because Redux is just a store, so it keeps your state in one area to try to prevent you from drilling down or using multiple props. So you don't have to have a component with another component with another component with another component. Sometimes that becomes very confusing. You can't track state well. So Redux sort of helps with that problem. It allows you to keep all your state in one specific area, so you know at what time what's being called and how what's being used. Now hooks, Redux also comes with a lot of extra work. Like you have to put a lot of dependencies in there. You have to import these actions, these reducers. You have to do all that stuff with Redux, so it does make your application a little heavy. And sometimes it's more work than what you need for that particular use case. If I had a situation where I was I would drill down to four levels. I may not want to use Redux for that. I could probably use a hook for that, and I don't have to drill down 4 levels. I could just use a hook, and I can manage state on each component itself. So pretty much just matters how you want to use it. Like you said, you can use them both because I can have a large application where I'm using Redux, but I also want to be able to do things. Just because you use Redux doesn't mean you don't use props. It doesn't mean you don't go down. So it still will be used for case for hooks. Hooks pretty much helps you more so in that drilling down phase where it reduces the amount of drill downs you need to do, because now you can add state to your functional components. And usually when you're drilling down because you're using the functional component.
So can I ask, is the hook then, the way I'm understanding it, is it almost like freezing the state of your data like in a certain spot where you can reuse it or re-manipulate it in that frozen state? So like La, you were just saying you have like 4 levels of state or something like that. So your data could look different in each of these like states, but you can address them or manipulate them based on whatever name or hook you give.
Well, bottom line, hooks, so the way you use state in your regular class component is no different than the way state is used with Redux hooks. It's no different than the way state is used with context API, and it's no different than the way state is used with Redux. It's just a different way of managing state. When you have to do it with the class component, the best way to manage state is causing a refresh using your lifecycle components and then drilling down your state to different components as you need it. That's the traditional way of using it with React, number one way. At some point, you might get to a point where your application becomes bigger. So then you might want to use context API, which is very similar to Redux. It has the concept of a store, where you have a provider and a consumer, where you wrap your component in its provider after you make certain stores of data, and now you're able to import that data inside that component right away. So in that situation, you don't have to worry about the refresh and the life cycles, because the store is taking some of that complexity out of it. It's managing state for you somewhere else, and is importing state for you as you need it. Redux has a very similar model. It does sort of a very similar same thing. It's importing state for you as you need it, so you have less complexity with your with your lifecycle functions. Now, the first way, when you use a component, you drill down through a function, a functional component. And a functional component is a component that does not have state. So that's where you pass props to that component. Those are the components that you have to drill down sometimes 1, 2, and 3, 4 times to pass state. Hooks allow you not to do that. Now, if I have something like a button on that one component and that button so it's true or false based on I did something, I could just put a hook there on that functional component and manipulate true or false based on a button press, as opposed to having to pass that function up through a prop and dealing with it that way. I could just put a hook right there and deal with it right then and there, because I'm not really storing that state to a database. I'm not really persisting that state. I'm just using that state right there to manage my UI, so I can just manipulate it right there. With more or less Redux and Context API, you're using state to persist data in your database. Not always, but more so you are. You're using that stuff to change your data and to move your data that way. Where hooks, I would say, so far, what I see the best case use of it is to manipulate the UI. So like use like a radio button, turn something off, turn something on, give you a boolean true or false or something. That's the most I see it. And therein, to answer your other question, I see it more so used in my material UI. Material UI uses a lot of time to deal with a lot of their components, just the basic functionality of it.
Yeah, that's fair. I haven't done enough research on hooks, so I'm just asking very general questions. So that's something for me to dive into. But yeah, that was a good first example or first exposure to it. So appreciate that, bro.
Yeah, well, that's why too. Hooks is very new, so in most workplaces it's not used. Right. It's very new. You know what I mean? So I want to say hooks came out after I was in boot camp. I got out of boot camp last March, right?
Yeah, it was like 2018 sometime.
I think I had an interview like that April, and the guy was telling me, "Hey, hooks just came out." So it's pretty new. You know, I mean, a year yet, it's still new in tech, and it's not a year yet when you think about a large corporation. I mean, you guys both came from a large corporation. You're not introducing technology into your large corporation in that quick of a time, because it has a lot of complexity to it, and you're not known, a lot of unknown things. So that's my plug on that.
So then you said the Context API was the other one that does the same thing or similar thing as Redux.
Yep. Say again.
Context API, you said it's similar to Redux, but does it come with React out of the box?
Yeah, it comes with React out of the box. It's very similar. Yeah. Nice. React was building some features too with that to try to make it so that people didn't have to use Redux, because it wasn't designed the way Redux was designed. I mean, ultimately, React is designed for you to be able to use the components and lifecycle methods to control all this stuff. But of course, it becomes difficult after a while. So these are different tools to make it a lot easier. So Context API was used for something else that React used, and you can use it, but it wasn't as heavy duty as Redux. So I'm thinking they made more features to it and increased their functionality to it. So like I say, I don't have to use a lot of that stuff. We only have one real application that uses Redux. So right now, my point in my React, I consider myself like a beginner going into intermediate. And I would say right now for me, I'm just making sure I focus on understanding life cycles. So I'm pretty good at, keeping my components pretty light and being able to move my prop away and making sure I know what's rendering and making sure my React app is, as fast as possible, and determine whether I need to use server-side rendering or client-side rendering. So I'm pretty much just using that type of stuff, like, different between optimistically rendering my data versus pessimistically rendering my data. Those are like sort of the beginning stuff. So I'm pretty much, just making sure I'm sharpening my skills on that. Then move more into the big state applications, because they have their own complexities. And I feel like if I don't really understand how React is working at its fundamental level, it's going to be very difficult to manage that complexity at that level.
Yeah, and I ran into that as well. Like there's a class that I have that's React and Redux, and the first half of it is all React, and that's all great. But then they immediately jump in and start talking about Redux and stuff, but without any conversation about what you're saying. Like if you're in a enterprise environment working on a huge application, Redux is in play, but like if you're just building random apps on the side, like it's overkill. Like there's never the question of like, why are you learning Redux? It's just, hey, welcome to my course, let's learn Redux. And I found that like it's like it's too much too fast. Like it's like you don't need, and like basically to echo what you're saying, like you don't necessarily need a lot of that stuff if you're just building a regular single page application, until you get to like redirects and all these crazy APIs, like where there's a lot of information coming and going, then maybe you need something to like manage that if you don't do so yourself. But like, yeah, that's interesting stuff, because the more I'm looking into it, the more it's like, all right, I can kind of just not I'm thinking about abandoning that course, at least for now, until Redux is more relevant to what I'm doing. Just to get better at the basics, the React stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. All right, La, you're up. You want your Java notes or your database notes first?
Get the Java notes. And I'm thinking you could. I'm trying to. I'm trying to pull it up. Sorry. Alright, I'm pulling myself. Alright, I'm not gonna go over the database because that's the stuff that you talked about.
Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect.
So I think we'll talk about that next week, but I got my notes there if anybody need them. So I'll talk about Java. I'm not gonna talk about all of this stuff. So you know what? When we start at the top, I'll start at the top with you, chapter 1.
All right, yeah. One sec, because I think just can you tell me if this is a little bloated on the screen? It looks like it probably is.
Yeah, I only got the top like 2/3 maybe top left.
Yeah.
I can see it though.
So I was about to say, I don't think you fit all of my document on one screen.
No, I got you. Here we go. Can you see that, lot?
No, I can't, but I'm trusting that you're
well, yeah. Okay, if you're not watching the YouTube, my bad. Then yeah. But I got it up on the screen. Justin, can you see it? The full doc?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. Yeah. So we're good, lot. You can go ahead. The same. We see everything you see on your screen.
So yeah, I just give you a brief rundown of what I'm gonna talk about, why and how my week was. So my week at work, I worked on this week application where I got a PDF file of some, slides, PowerPoint slides. They were graphical related, and I was asked with the task of turning that into some type of a test screen where you walk around like a museum or something like that. And you go to a kiosk system and you like do a touch screen app where you touch on it, and you screen through slides, I guess. So they was asking me to do something like that. So what was interesting in it was that I was challenged with not being able to code it, but just pretty much taking the slides and turning them into PNGs, and then pretty much create some type of a mapper over top of them, an HTML mapper, so that I could create hotspots where you could click on them, and then turning those hotspots into certain buttons or response buttons, so the user would know their question or their response was selected. So that was pretty much my thing. I would show it to you guys, but it's proprietary, so I can't show it on the screen. So, but what's interesting about that was a lot of React, and like I just spoke about with Justin for a few minutes, it was just pretty much about just making sure I stick to the fundamentals and making sure that my code was persistent optimistically, which meant was I don't have a backend. So I needed to make sure that everything you did as a user saved and persisted without a refresh. So that was pretty much my challenge for the week. How it pertains to my Java is just pretty much me just understanding fundamentally how systems operate. And I don't know if you guys understand that Java is unique because it's virtual, the JVM, Java Virtual Machine, or the JDK, the Java development kit, is installed on almost every operating system. So that's why it comes up with the whole concept of write once and I guess code everywhere. Because Java is one of the only languages that you can make one program and you can put it on a Windows system, a Linux system, or a Mac OS system without any kind of complication. So, along with my networking and my operating system reading, I just thought that was pretty interesting for me about that. So I'm not going to go over the top of it, the computer organization. That's something for you guys to see, but it just pretty much highlights how computers operate, organized, and how they operate. What I found interesting is that if you notice, like I build a lot of software applications, so what I'm noticing is that is a common pattern to how applications are built, how our computer system is built, and they're all the same type of patterns. Like everything has a job, almost like this has a job to do this. This function is going to take this information, is going to put this information out here. We're going to add all these functions together, and together they're going to create a program. And it's sort of just the way the whole computer operating system works. This person has a job to store this person has a job to move this person has a job to input this, and they use all their jobs together to make it work. So I thought that was pretty fascinating, and how pretty much I feel like whoever invented all these languages is sort of bit off of how it already was established to create these languages. Data hierarchy, you guys can read through that. It's pretty much dry stuff. Machine languages. that was pretty interesting. I guess only gets to go back to.
Wait, 1 second. What section are you in? Are you still on the first page?
Can you scroll
On
down?
the second page, I'm scrolling down. So I start saying, so now 1.3 was data hierarchy. I said you guys can read through 1.3. Then I moved down to 1.4 machine languages.
Wait, machine
language.
Is it on the first page?
It was on the Java screen. I only sent you one thing of Java.
No, right, but it's 8 pages. It's 8 pages. Is it on the first page?
So they go in order. So I guess go to the second page and they go in order. So I'm going in order.
Oh yeah, I got you. Data hierarchy.
So I'm on machine languages right underneath that.
1.3.
1.4.
I got you.
1.4. Yeah. Okay. There you go.
All right. Okay. So machine languages, like I said, was interesting with the Java JVM machine. Because it just talks, I'm pretty sure most people understand about how your machine speaks machine languages, which is your zeros and ones. And pretty much every machine, when I say machine, I'm talking about like operating system like Linux, Mac, Windows. You also talk about your mobile, your Android, your iOS, and so forth and so on. But when I talk about machine, I'm talking about those systems. And then those systems for every particular computer, because it also includes your hardware. They all have their own specific language that they understand and read. And that's why it makes it difficult for certain languages to, write once and use everywhere, because every language has its own type of compiler where it compiles their language down to some type of a machine language so that machine can use it. So you think if I wrote in something like Go, I don't know this for a fact, I'm just using this for example. If I wrote something like Go, then you have to compile that down. Then you have to compile that program down to every machine that doesn't have my Go compiler on it. So that would make that a little bit more harder for it to be portable and to use everywhere. So pretty much the machine language just goes through the levels of them. It talks about that. It talks about the high-level languages, how we are today, and that was pretty much written so that we could create software programming easier. And it pretty much talks, when you think about the basics of how computer science was began with, it was just simple. Like, machine languages for machine, assembly languages because that, people who had to write close to machine needed simple commands. So they could write things like put this or read that or print this. That's what assembly language is. And the high-level language is what we write now when we write Java or C++. That's pretty much, it helps us communicate or write software programs that our computer can read. And those were why all those languages were created. Interpreters, of course, was created so that we can interpret what we're saying at a high level down to the machine level. I'm not going to go through the object, which is 1.5, Darian. So I'm going to move through that. You guys,
I'm with you. Yep.
Programming. I'm not going to go to operating system 1.6. We've talked about that in the beginning, and I just said that again, but there are notes for everyone to read. I'm not going to go through programming languages, but I will say I think it's important for people to read through it. It was just cool how everything started. And like I said before, every language that I have here started with a specific reason. It had a specific purpose why that language was written. So when we say one language is better than the other, it's sort of interesting because these languages weren't written to compete with the other. They were written for a specific purpose, and whether people use them for different purposes is irrelevant. But the bottom line is that they weren't written to compete with the next. They were written to solve a particular problem in a certain way. And I guess that's why it's important for you to understand what language you're using so that you can make sure that your program is written the best way. Because if you use a language that's developed for that type of programming, you're going to get the best type of program that you can get. So I guess you can read through those. It goes through all the languages up to Ruby. And then we go to the Java. And I'll just stop here. And this is what I was telling you guys about before. I'm saying that Java pretty much creates this application, I think, in like a 4 or 5 step process. It's just really interesting how it talks about how he creates the program with the source code. That's what we do. Then it talks about how it goes to from the source code through our editors or text editor, which we already know, IDE, Eclipse, or if you use Notepad or something like that. And then it says it goes right to the JVM. What I thought was interesting is here because the JVM ties right into the operating system, because the JVM takes all your source code and it turns it into bytecode, and that bytecode represents tasks for your computer to execute or tasks for the operating system to execute. So it's like that, all that information goes into our input right to our operating system, to that CPU unit, and then we start to decide what we're going to execute line by line by line. So I just thought that was really, really interesting how that sort of layers right into the operating system and how it sort of moves. And because the JVM is that close to the operating system, has a whole bunch of security in it, so they can make sure that the program doesn't damage your file system, because if it damages it, it damages your entire computer because it's that close to your operating system. So there's more to it, guys, but I don't want to talk forever. I got to walk my dogs, and it's 4:30. But I just thought that stuff was pretty interesting for me as I'm reading. And again, hopefully I'll have some more stuff for you next week, and maybe I'll have some code. But if any questions you guys have, then feel free to ask me. Otherwise, Darian is over to you.
No, that was good. I mean, Justin, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good. I'll probably just read through that, and that's about it.
Yeah, for sure. That was incredible.
I'm getting ready to switch back to Java myself, so I've got to learn all this again.
Yeah, that was incredible. I think that's a good breakdown. So I will, for anybody on the stream, I will definitely leave any links or resources from anything that we talked about today in the description box down below. For next week, my goal, and for Justin and La, this would be, so I'm going into, I got loaded up with Pluralsight courses Friday, so I will be in Pluralsight all next week, and I think it'll give me a lot of good content. So basically, La, what you just gave us in Java, I'll hope to come in with a lot of advanced C# stuff from the Pluralsight training I'm doing, and any other things that I run into as I kind of get onboarded with the team this week, I'll probably bring some of that as well. Just talk about some of the differences between working environments and like now doing stuff like on a global scale, how that kind of impacts the work. But yeah, so next week will be a big C# week for me, and then the rest of my database stuff. Next week will be more academic, but anything I bring will probably be C# related because that'll be what I'm jumping into heavy this week. As a heads up, but I really appreciate y'all for coming on, for sharing everything, for sharing your notes. Hopefully, it's really valuable to everybody out there that's watching. If you have any comments, be sure to let us know in the comment section. Ask any questions, we'll get back on that. Yeah, anything for next week, y'all? Y'all want to focus on anything or goals for this upcoming week before we head out?
For me, I guess this week I'll be in Phoenix with the job. So.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Congrats. You're about to be on another work trip 2 in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so I definitely want to make sure I get some reading. I want to read closer to my networking and my operating system. So I definitely have more stuff like this for you guys. I probably don't build any apps next week. So my next app that I'll probably be able to share information for you guys, because it won't be proprietary, will be I'm building a Node app. So I'll be focusing a lot on my deployment process. The deployment process at work sucks. So I want to make sure that I have me a process where I can build and I can ship things to production very quickly. So I really want to focus on that, and I've never built an app in Node before, so that'll be interesting. So I'll definitely be able to share that in a couple of weeks to come. So.
All right, sweet.
That's really funny because that's exactly what I was doing. Oh. I was gonna React app hook it up to a MongoDB via Node.
Okay.
Nice. Sweet.
That's because my new job start date got pushed again because they're apparently on vacation all the time. So I got a little extra time to work on some of this stuff.
So when you start?
It was supposed to be Monday. Then I realized Monday is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and then they basically have to sign the work order still. So right now Wednesday is probably the soonest.
Okay.
They're just the guy I was talking to said they're notoriously slow, so it's nothing to worry about. It's just I'm on vacation now.
So that's perfect. So I know, Justin, with you starting that and everything too, I'll be sure to check in at some point by midweek to see what works out best schedule wise for everybody, and then if it's a Sunday next week.
My weekends are still wide open, man. There's no problem there.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, I appreciate y'all, everybody watching. I appreciate y'all for being on the stream and sticking this out with us. Hopefully this was helpful for y'all. And we'll be sure to catch y'all next week right here on the weekend. So, yeah, week four coming up, almost the first month down of the boot camp. So, hopefully y'all getting some value out of this. And La, Justin, y'all have a good weekend, and I'll holler at y'all pretty soon.
All right, you too.
All right, y'all. All right, have a good night. Peace.